Welcome, everybody. Episode 56, Drum Education Live. And this time we have Brazilian drummer CYRO ZUZI. How are you, CYRO?
I'm very well and very happy to be here with you guys. Thanks for
Cool.
inviting.
All right, cool. So let's start with what really matters. What is Bish Bash Bosh?
Apart from a really freaking good name for a website,
Exactly.
love it.
I know, but I don't take any merit because I took the company from the old boss and he had that name already. So, but basically, Bish Bash Bosh is a company that provides samba workshops and samba drumming, mainly for primary schools. But we work with like a bit of secondary, the universities, and some communities as well when they need. But like 90% of the work is focused on primary school. And I joined the company maybe almost 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, with the previous owner, Robin Lurie, is a percussion player. He lived in Brazil. Like he's British, but lived in Brazil like for 1 year.
You see how Brazilians work? He joined the company 10 years ago. Now he's the boss. So be careful.
So yeah, you're not here to take anybody's job. It was like he actually gave up.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
No, but Robin's a lovely guy, and it was funny because when he actually posted something on Facebook that he was looking for instructors, and a few of my friends actually who were like much more into percussion than I was, because at that time I was like mainly a drummer. Like today I got a bit more into percussion, but at that time I was almost like not a percussionist at all. And for my surprise, he actually got me. He said, "No, dude, you look like a cool guy, like so let's try." And it was amazing. We worked together for maybe 5 years, and then he just got tired because he's a primary school teacher as well. So said that that's too much. So if you want to take it, and I didn't want to take it all, but that was the only way for me to keep working. Because otherwise he was gonna sell all the instruments and the website, so I'll probably have no work after. So I was like, okay. I mean, it was a massive negotiation with my girlfriend inside the house to bring like loads of percussion and instruments. So that was the main issue of the whole thing. But yeah, so I think like for about 3 or 4 years, I've been doing it on my own, and yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
Cool.
So where is the percussion? Where are all the instruments living right now?
They were in a studio that I used to rent in Manor House, but when COVID came, I mean, everybody got hit, so I couldn't afford the studio there anymore. And I ended up bringing everything to my house. So if you look at, I mean, because you got a nice background here, but if you look in front of the computer, you would see a bunch of like drums and percussion that it doesn't look good, So but it's okay. I mean, hopefully, like with the work picking up again, I'll be able to rent a room again and just leave everything there.
We know how it works from the computer screen back. We all know how that works.
Yeah, you can tell about your personality. Like,
Here.
I'm gonna pick an old question that we used to always ask. What do you think is missing from drum education?
wow, that's a hard one actually. Um, I think it's well, it's a few things. I think it's because it has changed, and I saw that change during through the years. Which I mean, I came from a generation that was like no internet, and I was a bit reluctant to to catch up with the new technologies and everything. So I think like for some teachers, it's missing that kind of stuff. That it to get into the mentality that we cannot teach the same way that our teachers taught us. I mean, of course, some stuff. I mean, you guys talk about like drum methods and drum techniques that like 100 years ago. So where we're still, they're very important. But I think it's the approach. It has changed a lot. Um, so the kids, I personally try to mix and match. Like I love this kind of romantic handwriting. You know, like I still have like from my old teacher, well, all my notebooks. I still have like his hand notation. But at the same time, we need to catch up with the apps and the new technology. I think with more and more, we need to look for things that there are outside drumming, which are music production, recording, and even maybe composition. Know of another instrument, no percussion. A lot of the drummers, I think, it's miss this part, and which is like a huge part of like even teaching. And I think like for the main thing, it's actually to understand the new generation that they are very different from ours. I see even among them, I see like, I mean, my youngest one is like 5, 6 year old, and if you compare this age with like 16, 15, there's a huge gap. Like it looks like we're talking about a 30-year gap generation. So imagine from us. So I think it's very important to read the students. I think like there's, I mean, I went to university. We studied a bit of psychology as well. So they talk about this multiple intelligence, and one of the parts are to be able to understand yourself and understand each other. So we have to read the students as well, because sometimes we try to force one way of teaching that is not working at all, and uh, suddenly like the students give a cue about like one word, how they're feeling and stuff, and that can change completely, and then you can hook the student by just one word of how he's feeling, or that. So I've been learning about a lot about that, how to also to give a bit more time for the students to talk, because I noticed there's a lot of negotiation, especially with the young ones. They love to arrive and tell you, the teacher, how was their week and the stuff, and that makes the rest of the class like lovely. Otherwise, I felt like at some point of like maybe they were late or some stuff. I was like, man, let's start the lessons, and the lesson doesn't flow. So they need that kind of like space for them, like, okay, so now we're set, let's start the lesson, and then it runs lovely. So I think it's just more about this kind of like understanding, because of the gap of generations there. So
Okay, cool.
hard question.
It is. It is. That's why we like asking it. I have since we're talking about the generation gaps. Tell us a little about how did you get into drumming? How old were you, and how did you start with it?
Yeah, great, because that's something that has everything to do with what we are talking about now. I started quite late. I was like 13, and it was a bit funny because it didn't hook me at the first time. I was any other Brazilian kid, like hooked into football. I was a massive. I was like very into skateboarding as well at that time. Like no music at all. And I remember there was a concert in my school, and the drummer used to be in my class. And I just saw they're playing for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and it for me was like, okay, let's play football. And on the next day, I was gonna call my friends to play football, and one of them were actually leaving the house with a fake guitar. There was actually a broom that he made it fancy, like wrapping up on silver tape or something. And I was like, man, what's that? Like, let's play football. He was like, no, no, that's a guitar. I was like, guitar? And he was like, yeah, we've got a band now. So I was like, you got a band? How come? He was like, yeah, we were looking for you because like on the school break, there was a band playing, but we didn't find you. Like, so we just decided to form a band. So I was like, okay, let me go with you with whatever you're going. And then when I arrived there, all my friends were actually there. And I was like, man, I want to be part of this band, but not because of the music, because I didn't want to lose my friends, like, because everybody was there. And they were like, no, there's no place for anybody else. So it's like you have to just sit down and watch. I was like, no, no way. I want to be part of this. And I remember until today that I came back home. It was like 10, 11 in the morning. My mom was still cooking, so I kind of like stole her beans, put in a can, and I came back there. I was like, okay, I can be a shaker. I didn't need it. And they were like, no, that's actually cool because that's the only real instrument. So you can play. And then like I think like after 3 days, the drummer, it was just a play. Like nobody knew how to play anything. Like we're just like jamming, put a playback. And the drummer gave up, and that was the only instrument available. So okay, I'll take it. And yeah, so then from there it starts getting serious. The other people, drop off, and then other people start having lessons and stuff. And then yeah, I remember when actually got me because until that point it didn't do me anything. I was just there for fun. Which was the day that the drummer that I saw in the school invited me to go to his house because his father had bought a proper drum set for him. And man, like when this kid opened the door of his room, it was like I was freezing. It was crazy. It was like, man, what is that? And then he started playing. It was like, oh my god, you can do all this. And I remember until today that I didn't even know how to play the bass drum because I didn't know about pedal. So basically, on my bucket drum set, I put a whammy and I was just kicking the the wall. Like, I didn't even know about pedals or anything. And then when I sat down behind the drums, I was like, oh, there's all these mechanisms and the hi hat. Oh, you can step and they close down. So from that day, the sky opened and a light came. And from there, I didn't even know if I was going to become a professional or not, but I knew that I was going to play for the rest of my life. I was like, man, I just want to play. I just want to do this. It doesn't matter if I become professional or not, but I just want to do this forever. So,
And when did you start having lessons, if any lessons?
yeah, no, I did. So that was maybe a few months after that, but always on these bucket drums. Because I started working very early. With my father used to run a insurance office, so he didn't want me to stay on the streets all the time. Like the 13 is a dangerous age in Brazil and stuff. So it was like, okay, you're working during the day and you study in the afternoon or whatever. And then with my salary, I was able to buy a drum kit, and then I'll start having lessons and stuff, which was like a local teacher. And then later on, I did maybe 5 years with Douglas. Felipe might know him, Douglas.
Douglas Las Casas. Yeah.
So I stay a long time with Douglas, and yeah. So basically, that was it.
Cool.
And was this was in Brazil?
That was in Brazil, yeah.
When was your move to the UK then?
I moved in 2007. That's 14 years. But I didn't become professional until like maybe 8 years ago.
And what sparked your move then? I mean, was it entirely career focused?
It was, but for another reason, because my degree was actually in Brazil they call letras. I think here they call linguistics and literature. because I had a massive argument with my father. He didn't allow me to do drums professionally because he was like, "Oh,
Oh,
you're not gonna be able to pay your rent. Like you have to be
right.
responsible, that
He
kind of
had a
stuff."
point though.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna be able to do what I want, I'm not gonna do what you want, because he wanted me to do some administration or some stuff.
Yeah.
So I had a huge gap, and then for uni, I only came like started doing uni like after like 5 or 6 years after I moved from second school, and then I started doing linguistics because I love English actually. So I was actually thinking about working with translation, and
Mm.
that was my reason to move to UK because I was okay. I'll go there. I learn, maybe spend like 1 year learning, and then come back to Brazil and start working as a translator. And so I started doing my master's degrees at the same point, but like my tutor actually passed away. He was very ill already, like when I started doing, and then I didn't feel there was no one else to cover what we were studying.
Mm.
And I had some money saved. Okay, I was like, okay, I could have the opportunity to have the Italian citizenship as well. So I was like, okay, just try. If it doesn't work, I come back. If it works, and I eventually I want to stay more, just go to Italy, which I did, and then uh, I came back to UK, and I was I came to stay 9 months. It's been 14 years. I think Felipe
Wow.
has a similar story or something.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing I came to stay. There was no plan B.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. We came kind of at the same time, but there was no plan B. I came to be a drummer, or well, to continue to be a drummer. But this is not about me. What made you decide, okay, I'm gonna be a professional drummer now?
Because I was going to like obviously here when you first arrive you don't have a chance to work in your field and stuff. So I was working in the kitchen, and eventually I got a job as a cook, which kind of like I liked it, but at the same time it was like very very stressful. Working like 12-hour shift. It was like, and then there was a period that I was like super stressful. I had like a very stressful time. I started having like panic attacks just because of the stressful life.
Mm.
And then I was like, you know what? I actually jeopardizing my health. So I'm gonna try music now because that's the only thing I haven't tried yet. And if there I have nothing to lose anymore. So if it doesn't work, I just go back home and find another job there, or to start working in translation because my English got better. And that was like, you know what, like I've been telling my whole life no about drums, so there's nobody here. When they put a picture of a donkey and a chair, that is like it's really easy to move, like there's nothing hold, but the donkey never moves because he thinks he's attached to the chair. So that was what was in my mind. I was like, I'm this donkey now. Like there's nothing else holding me. Why I'm not trying it? So I just started, and then I didn't know how to start. I didn't know many professional musicians, and I was lucky to find some people that were doing actually busking professionally, and they were making a living. So I started doing one year of like just busking, and then like I was able to survive. I was like, okay, so playing on the streets, and I was cool to survive. And then like I moved to a house that was like only jazzers like there, so they started teaching me. There was like we were having jam sessions in my room, which was like the drum room. And then from them, I started getting more and more contacts. They would take me to jam sessions, and then your network start uh, getting bigger. And then yeah, and then eventually it was like okay, that's fine. And
I'm
then
a
what
professional now.
it was fine because my father came once, and I remember when we make men's again. That was beautiful actually. He came to watch the Olympics because he is a massive sports fan, and he saw me busking. There was like, okay, I was taking him to because he's a massive fan of music as well. So He's not a musician, but he just loves music. And then one day we were in Old Street playing, and we played for about like 6 hours. And then he was just seeing like people just passing, and we were like playing with all our hearts, like, because that was like first year of drumming, like, and I really wanted to play. I just didn't care about money. It was like, okay. And then I remember at the end we were having dinner together, and it was like, man, how is that possible? I saw you guys putting all your soul and all your hearts there, and people just passing, they don't even realize you're there. And then from that day, okay, you got me now. So you understand now where I was coming from, like all the early days that I told you wanted to go for music. And then we just had like a lovely conversation. He opened up his life, that he was not able to do as well as what he wanted and stuff. And so that was it. I mean, it took me a long time to get to this point, but it was a great journey. And I think like the the university that I did in Brazil, because they cover about teaching as well. So it was nothing missed, because I still using the teaching and the psychology stuff with my students today. So yeah, it was just a journey that I thought it was nothing to do, but at the end now I see you know it's coming together now.
Cool.
Oh, that's lovely. Um, Now,
Mm.
your technique is very, very good, and your traditional grip as well. So I would like to know, what was there anything that you used to practice routinely for your technique? Anything that you share with your students?
Nice. So we were talking about Douglas. Yeah, Douglas was the guy who introduced me to traditional grip. I was a massive metal fan in Brazil. So obviously match it grip all the time. But I thought I would look cool during
I
grip.
would never, I would never say you were a massive metal fan because I've seen you playing so many times. You and as Kira said, your technique is amazing and it's so delicate that
Yeah.
I would never guess you were a metal fan.
Yeah, no, that's true stories about that. One was because like when I was living to these musicians' house, that was the time I was studying more. I was studying like crazy at that time, and eventually even the musician was like, man, it's not, you're practicing too much, like go to the streets or rent a studio. You just drive us insane. So and then one another thing was I started playing much more like jazz in like restaurants that, and I just got fed up with the waiter coming every 5 minutes. Oh, can you guys play quieter? And I was like, okay, I just had to find a way to bring everything, the volume like very, very. And then also a great piano player, Paulo Lossi, which was a guy he was a great piano player, but also a great drummer. And he gave me this tip. He said, "Man, the lower volume that you get, the more gigs you're gonna get." So, and then I kind of follow. It took me a long time to work in these kind of dynamics, which for me I struggle to play loud now. So it was a funny story about this metal thing that I auditioned for a metal band maybe a few years ago, and I didn't pass because they were like, man, it's too light, you know. But
Was there any specific exercise you did to get this lighter touch?
no, no, I don't think so. Also because it took me, I had to adapt because well, from Douglas, and Douglas is a guy that really plays loud, and he always was like, man, if we're looking for the sound, and I will always have to look for the sound, and so all this like molar, the circle of motion, and I had to readapt because if you play, it's almost like playing with your fingers, but like it's I don't know. Some people call micromolar or stuff, but like I always try to keep like very close to the head
Mm.
anyway. And yeah, so regarding exercise, I was never into like very like a rudimental guy or anything. But at some point, I felt like I was missing a lot of the technique, so I started studying by the Tommy Igoe,
Mhm.
the rudimental stuff that he's got.
Yeah.
And I think there are a few videos on Alan Dawson rudimental ritual that they put some slow to fast like the whole ritual. And I started doing a lot of that, especially during the lockdown. I was practicing a lot of the rudiments, which are still not great. Like I was still working on my flams and drags. So what I've been doing now is to mix what Douglas taught me with more rudimental. So for example,
Mm.
like whatever combinations he would give me. So for example, right kick. I just put a flam and do the kick, or I just put a drag and do the kick, and then right left. Again, I just do flam right left and kick. So I always try that. That was another thing I took from Douglas. That was it's cool to work in a pad, but like don't spend much of your time in a pad because. And this is how I felt like when I started going for the more phrasing stuff. I was missing the bass drum. I was like, okay,
Mm.
this is getting in the way now. So I was like, okay, I try to find more time to go and practice on the actual drum set. And then
Mm.
obviously when it's late at night, I have this. So I just watch TV and then it just to keep the muscles going and yeah, so just that.
Cool.
Sure.
You can have 3 drummers over for dinner. They can be dead. Who would they be?
Okay. Uh, well, I think like my biggest hero is like Vinny, Vinny Colaiuta.
The man who doesn't need a surname, Vini.
Exactly.
Yeah, so so you're talking about drummers, or can be musicians, or
In general.
Well, yeah, I meant
okay,
drummers, but you can be anyone, really.
okay.
Hopefully musical. Don't give me movie stars.
No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. No, I'll definitely choose Coltrane because he was the transition for me to jazz. I didn't even start listening Elvin first. I because like it was funny. The Coltrane just hooked me so badly in a good way. So like hugely that I didn't. I mean, Elvin came second actually because I was just amazed by how Coltrane would play. And maybe I would put into I would divide maybe Billy Colburn, which I saw you guys did a video, and John McLaughlin, because those two guys made this transition from heavy metal to fusion, which I put mountain, how do you call mountain in a flame or in a flame mountain? I forgot the
Yeah,
mountain.
I knew it until the moment you start talking about.
Yes, I think it's a mountain of an inner flame. I completely forgot. It's
Yeah,
got flame on the
and there's
and
the inner, and there's definitely the inner. I'll put a subtitle with the correct name.
okay, yeah. And
Inner
that
Flame
was
Mountain could be.
yeah, and the inner as well. I just don't know the order.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll put a proper subtitle with the name of the
Yeah,
album.
yeah. And I think like these guys changed my musical path, and obviously Vinny changed my way to play drums, the way I wanted to play drums. Uh, yeah, because I think it's important not only mention drums, but the whole context. It's
Mhm.
yeah. So
That's the answer of a real musician.
Love it.
Yeah, I would stick with dead musicians because then there would be more food for myself.
Definitely.
I'm really curious of this, like the heavy metal fan that now is a jazz drummer. And it's you because jazz players and metal players are usually radical. And jazz people don't accept metal and metal people don't accept jazz. And then all of a sudden we have here a jazz drummer that was a huge metalhead. Was there a point of embarrassment when you realized, oh, I like jazz? Or, oh, I like jazz now and I used to like metal?
No, you guys do like great questions actually. Um, no, I don't think it was embarrassed. It was an embarrassment when I started on jazz. I mean, I always studied jazz aside from what happened was like when I was with Douglas. There's a huge university near my hometown. We call it Unicamp in Campinas. And but what I found like back in the 90s, they were like very orthodox. So if you were not a proper jazzer, they would not give any space in the jam sessions. And then eventually, if you sit down and you suck, they were like, okay, you never play with us again, you know. And I
Oh,
was always trying to find way to call people from the university to come to my place. So okay, let's have a jam. But it was always no, you know. So that was like you're saying that it's a massive
Massive,
orthodox,
yeah.
too massive orthodox word. And when I told my friends I wanted to play jazz, they was like, "Nah, that's you know, you're kidding me. Like, why are you doing that?" And that, like, I found like in UK, these boundaries doesn't exist as much as they are in Brazil. So, and I think like I found a lot of drummers here because it's a natural course, like a rock metal. It's kind of teenager vibes, you know, like a lot of energy. Maybe to start
A
in the
lot of
beginning.
hormones.
Yeah, yeah. So when you are 15, 18, like yeah, that you can burn like as much as you want. Which in jazz you have to to have that certain age. So that, I mean, of course not. You see
That's
amazing.
why I love playing blues now.
With a cross stick, yes,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So yeah, I just found it like a natural transition, and then even nowadays, like you find a lot of drummers, you know, Dan Wise, for example, you know, he's into, and then other styles as well. Talking about Dan Wise, he's into Indian music, he's into metal, he's into jazz, which I try to be as well, and that comes from the a bit of the necessity of like open up your range of styles and be able to find more work. So, for example, I'm actually more deep, like I'm doing a very deep research into Brazilian music and diaspora and how the percussion came from and turning to the drums, you know. And so it's a I think like the more you open up your mind and the more work you have, because at some point, like back in the days, you find yourself okay. If you find maybe four, five, six groups that you can run a circle, and you might end up having gigs like every week, and that pays your rent, you know. And then the more you play, the more people you know, more you know, and then I mean,
Cool.
that was something jazz gigs that people call me to play reggae or samba or Brazilian. So yeah, so I think it's a great way to. And then music, at the end of the day, we just put labels, but it's just one thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all music.
I mean, obviously, it got the language of each style, but yeah, so it's
I've seen on your YouTube that you have got a couple of videos about Brazilian drumming. And I wondered, I don't know if I read this right, but have you got a course or anything? How can people learn more from you?
cool. Yeah, so I released this course, which is a really nice project by Ed Bateman. which is a bass player, and I think he lived in Senegal for almost 1 year. And then he had this project of doing a word music method. Actually, the website calls Word Music Method, and then there you can find people from all over the world explaining rhythms or drumming or whatever instruments from their own background. And then I was lucky enough to get the call from Eddie to do the Brazilian style, like drumming style. So we recorded, I think, about 2 years ago, and then the COVID came, and then we actually ended up recording the second course. And but he just released the first one from now, which I think it covers sambas, a few styles, a bit of percussion, a bit of partido, bossa, brushes and sticks, and a bit of baião, I think. I'm not sure about Ijexá. And then for sure, second one, I think I cover Ijexá and Maracatu, Coco, some few like Northeast rhythms. And yeah, so that's one thing. Like the other thing, I like teach privately. I teach in like drum schools. I have Bish Bash Bosh as well, and I'm doing my own research that I don't know how long it's gonna take, because like the more you dig in, the more the more you find stuff. And but basically, what I want to do now, what I've been doing for almost 2 years now, is to research specifically about the rhythms from São Paulo that nobody knows, that there's a massive African diaspora to São Paulo back to the like 19th century.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't. I always tell people. I said, man, I spent 20 years of my life like here, and I never heard about this rhythm before. And they were like 30 kilometers from me, like half an hour from my home, and it was like you don't. And then that's what I'm trying to do now, to not rescue, because the masters are all there. So try to adapt these drums to the drum kit and tell the story, and hopefully in the future I'll release a book telling all about this from the diaspora to the whole history, and then how these rhythms work on percussion, and how they work on the whole context. Because one of the things that I discovered was, I actually went to these cities to try to transcribe the rhythms, but it didn't work. I was like, man, you have to understand what's behind these rhythms. It's not rhythm. It's not about rhythm itself at all, because they match with the dancing. The dance matches with the singing. So what I'm trying to do is to write the whole book about each of the aspects about the dancing, the cosmovision, the philosophy, the spirituality, and finally the drum cells, and then at the very end I'll transcribe for the drum kit, which they're
Okay.
very cool rhythms, and almost nobody knows actually.
Yeah, sounds interesting, and sounds like a true master's degree project.
That's what I was told, because I was invited to work with UNASP, which is a university in São Paulo, and I presented there, and the teacher said, "Man, you can do you can do a master's degree like already." I was like, "No, I just." And then it was funny because I was interviewing one of the masters from this rhythm, and he was telling me, he said, "That's really cool, you're not doing any university, because your work won't have any end, and that the more you dig into it, like the more, so you don't have to worry about finishing 1 or 2 years." Because I've been doing this for 2 years, and I think, man, this can have worked like for 10.
Wow.
And this is it, yeah, that's the great stuff. So yeah, I just want to carry on until I find, okay, I'm old enough to publish this book before I die, and then, and then it's safe. My life had a reason for some.
Yeah, I'm gonna publish this book because I have about a week to leave now. Kira, that time of the evening.
Okay, I guess I'm going to ask how you are with the whole COVID situation, and are you finding that things are starting to open up a bit more, or do you think we have to wait a bit longer?
Nice. So yeah, as I said, like we as drummers, we have to improve our skills and catch up with the technology. So yeah, during the lockdown, I've been using all this time to actually learn about this, learn about like video edition, music score, and how to write. I didn't even know how to, write notes on the computer. It was like, man, I had to learn all this stuff now, which was cool. Like it took me a while, but I ended up, getting it right. And then recording as well. I did a few like internet courses about recording, and so it was cool. Like, cause like people were complaining a lot about my videos before. They was like, man, your sound is horrible. Like, stop this horrible smartphone crappy, like sound, and get a proper recorder. And then okay, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this right. So I bought some mics. I learned how to record, and I learned how to mix and edit videos and stuff. So I was able to not like a great quality, but at least a bit better than I used to do. So that was one thing. Another thing it was because I had loads of time, so I'm gonna take this opportunity to learn stuff that I was always lazy about. Like uh, rudimental, like work on technique and work on stuff that the kids are doing today that I don't want to get too behind them. Which was this kind of like quintuplet, septuplet. I'm studying all that kind of stuff. And it was great because it was like it's a thing that people are using now, and like the more you get into, the more it feels natural anyway. So on this kind of like career like that's what I've been doing. And yeah, so since they start opening up, uh I don't have many gigs already. I mean, a few gigs had popped. But I was working a lot more into, even I pay a visit to Felipe for him to give me some advice about teaching, about advertising, how do you advertise yourself. So he was lovely to get me into his studio and give me some really nice tips. So yeah, that's so, and then I try to look more for like private students. I send a few stuff from some schools that I ended up getting work from Young Music Makers, which is a very, very lovely school. And so I have this drum course now available, and I've been trying to write my own music, but like nobody likes it. So that's another thing. I've been trying to learn harmony because everybody hates. Okay, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play all the instruments then.
Keep doing it. Do what you like.
Yeah.
That's what I like. One of my first flatmates, I saw, and he was the first one to say, like, man, forget about it. This is too crazy. I just write simple music. I was like, no, I can't write simple music. Like, and that was like, okay, I don't that like that. I don't have any plans to, because my biggest plan is actually to release that book that we were talking about. So I don't really bother about my own album or my own CD. It's just for fun. So. But which is cool, like, cause nobody wants to play with me, so I had to learn harmony and melody. So I just had to learn it. So it's been a way.
Well, but these are good skills to
Oh,
learn,
yeah. That's super productive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like another thing that helped me a lot was to learn about music production and mixing, because you start getting much more aware of frequencies. So you start having more awareness how the hi hat goes away from the bass drum, how the middle ranges, maybe snare drum tones work. So you kind of equalize your sound while you're playing. So that's another stuff I've been trying to, which I learned from learning music production, which is yeah, it's great.
And it's really hard, The top drummers in LA are the ones who, when they play, it's already mixed. The sound engineer doesn't need to and that saves a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think we were talking about that as well, like how difficult it is to mix, and then also how to mic up properly. You know, like learn about the room, how the room is important, how close or how far away from the mic rooms. I mean, there it's a whole different world, which is like very exciting. You know, like yeah.
Well, I'm glad that the lockdown, the pandemic has been very good for you because you've learned a lot of skills. You know, recording, mixing, editing videos, writing music. So come on.
Yeah, I just didn't see any money for now, but it's
Whoa, whoa,
fine.
whoa, 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 whoa! We're
So
musicians.
my depression might not come by you know the COVID lockdown, but the lack of money. But that's fine. That's I'm okay with that because I always been like that. Guys, just kidding. But
Who gets paid for music? No one.
I know, I know.
Exactly. Not us.
Yes, certainly not us.
No.
All right, man. Thank you very much. It was great.
It was lovely. Yeah.